Well, shares of Ulta Beauty are trading higher after the Illinois-based cosmetic and fragrance company boosted its full-year profit forecast and logged a beat for the third quarter, convincing beat. Let's get more now from Susan Anderson, Managing Director at Canaccord Genuity. Susan, thanks for joining us as always. Let's talk about which numbers did you like the most? Because there are quite a few now. I was looking through some of them, a lot of numbers to like there.
Yeah, really the numbers were strong across the board. They reported comps up 6.3%. The street was at 3.5%. So a very nice beat there. Even in the stores, the comps were up mid-single digits, which we haven't seen in a while. E-com sales were up mid-teen, so they were gaining share across both of those channels. And then they beat the bottom line as well, driven by a very strong gross margin, as well as the sales. Earnings came in at $5.14, beating the street at $4.61. So really strong numbers across the board.
And what did they do? I mean, I think there's been a lot of concern in retail about numbers, but this kind of is smashing things. What are they doing right there?
Yeah, so, beauty, once again, is continued to be, very strong. So, that's helpful to them. But also, I think the things that they're working on with their Beauty Unleashed strategy is starting to work. They're bringing in newness and innovation. They're improving merchandising and marketing, improving customer service. And I think all of that's finally coming together. They started to expand internationally. They bought Space NK a while back, which is based in the UK. And then also they're opening up stores in Mexico, and they're doing some franchise stores in the Middle East. So I think all of these things are coming together and adding to the really strong numbers. I would note, though, too, that they did talk about some price increases, more so in third quarter versus second quarter. Typically it is normal course of business, but I think they're seeing a little bit more because of the tariff situation. Mm-hmm. And so I think that did help the top line as well.
And who's their audience, or who's their customer, I should say, not their audience, but who's their customer? And where are they on the K?
Yeah, so, I would say across really all demographics. So the good thing with Ulta is they cater to prestige and value products. So, about half their business is prestige, half is mass cosmetics and beauty products. So, really they cater across all price points, which I think really benefits Ulta. They did talk about consumers still really looking for value. And it sounds like they saw that even more so in the recent quarter. So, the fact that consumers can trade across price points really across the store, I think is really helping them. But, really, I think all ages are shopping in their stores. Still more majority women than men, but men are also shopping in Ulta as well.
And were there any weak points in those sectors at all that you saw?
So, they did deleverage on SG&A, really due to higher incentive comp because results have been so strong, and then some deleverage of some other expenses and some investment. So that was the one area that was not as strong. But, I think that the top line and the strong gross margin really made up for that.
And with their international expansion, how is that performing? How's that doing?
Yeah, it's doing well. They don't break it out, but they talked about some learnings already that they're getting from Space NK, which, they're thinking about potentially rolling out across the other, the Ulta store fleet. So I think, longer term, it's another growth vehicle for them, which I think, is partly why the stock has done so well.
And is this is this their big season, or is beauty products something that kind of goes throughout the year, or are we looking for some numbers that we want to see a nice increase over from Black Friday into the Christmas season?
Yeah, definitely holiday is a seasonal category for beauty, maybe not as much as some other categories, because sales are still pretty strong throughout the year, but you definitely see a bump up over the holiday season. They did talk about Black Friday being very good and strong so far. So, that was positive. However, they did mention that there's still a lot of shopping ahead. So we'll see what happens. Typically, we do see a December lull. So, we'll see how much that eats away at the strong performance over Black Friday. But in general, just our checks as well in the beauty category, it continued to be very strong, and promotions very rational over the Black Friday season, which I think is encouraging heading into the rest of the holiday.
And they raised their outlook. Where do you see the growth coming from?
Yeah, so they raised their outlook, which we think still could be conservative because it implies kind of a step down in comps to low single digits for the fourth quarter. I think they're being conservative potentially if the strength continues throughout the rest of the holiday season. I think, they could do another mid-single digit comp again, but, we're watching to see what happens. But they also raised the bottom line as well. So, I think that strength is they saw positive growth in all of their four categories this past quarter. So I think that'll continue into the fourth quarter as well.
And just this is more out of curiosity for me, they're expanding. Any talk of coming to Canada?
So, before COVID, they were going to expand into Canada. And then when COVID hit, they decided not to. So I would think that that's definitely on the radar for future expansion.
Okay, we'll leave it there. Susan, thanks as always for joining us.
Thank you.
Susan Anderson is Managing Director at Canaccord Genuity.